So as you can tell by the title, we have bought our first ever house together, and I'm sure this is nowhere near as exciting to you as it is to us, but I thought it would be interesting to talk to you guys about my plans with the pets, the pet room, and also my plans when it comes to my small pet business in terms of where that's going to fit in with the house as well. So we're not actually moving for a couple of months. We do still have time to plan things and pack everything, but we have massively outgrown this house. It's been a really nice house to live in. Obviously we rent this house, but there is just no storage and we need a bit more space. Not really in terms of the animals, but just for us. And also I guess Hubble needs a bit more space, but we have definitely massively outgrown this house. And it's also not ideal when it comes to working from home because this is a semi-detached house. The neighbours next door are incredibly loud, which, as you can imagine, when my job requires me filming, and filming audio is not ideal when there is majorly loud noises next door, so I'm going to be glad to see the back of that. And also the main thing that I don't like about this house is just the fact that it is carpeted. I have a vendetta against carpets. I don't like them. I just feel like they're really hard to keep clean and clean on a regular basis, especially when you've got a lot of animals. So that is going to be the first thing that we're not going to have in the new house. I'm not going to have a single inch of carpet anywhere, probably rugs, but definitely no carpet in the pet room. So that is going to make life so much easier when it comes to caring for the rats and all of the bedding and stuff. Food bits they kick out of the cage every single day. I have a pretty strong vacuum cleaner, but in the last week we've had to take the whole thing apart and pick out all of the bedding and unclog it all, which is just a nightmare. So I'm hoping in the new house I'm going to have completely wooden flooring in the pet room, maybe a rug, maybe like a waterproof rug or something, but that's going to make sweeping and just wiping everything down, keeping it really nice and clean, so much easier, and I can't wait. So I do have my laptop right here, and I do have a 3D walkthrough video kind of thing. Obviously not the exact house that we're going to buy. This is the show home, and ours is still currently in the process of being built, but it does give you a good idea of the size of the pet room, obviously minus a bed and desk and everything that most normal people would probably put into a second bedroom and not turn it into a pet room like me, and I'm sure many of you watching. So this is what it's going to look like when you come straight up the stairs. On the left directly is going to be the pet room, then there's the third bedroom, then there's our bedroom, and then there's the bathroom. So the one we're most interested in is the pet room, which is the one on the left. Before that though, can we just appreciate how big the staircase is? I feel like Hubble is going to really enjoy sitting on that exact window and watching people, because he loves sitting on this windowsill and watching whatever is going on. Not much happens out the back, but he's going to really enjoy all of the windows because this house, being semi-detached, doesn't have many windows. This one has loads, so I feel like he's going to really enjoy people watching out the windows. Okay, so this is going to be the pet room, and before we start I just want to address the fact that if you're watching this in America or Canada or another country that is not the UK, houses in the UK are very, very small. I'm aware of that. I think everyone in the UK is aware of that. The price of these houses compared to what you would get in America for size or Canada for size are insane. They're crazy. I would love to have a massive, massive house, but in the UK that is pretty much unheard of, so we make do with what we've got, and compared to other houses it's a pretty decent size compared to smaller terrace size houses. So it's not the biggest pet room in the world, it's not going to be the most amazing one you see on YouTube, but I live in the UK, houses aren't the biggest for the price range, and this is what my pet room is going to look like. So they've modelled this with a desk and a bed, which I think is maybe a double bed, just to give you some indicator of the size of the room. And then at the back is a really big double, triple window, which is going to be so good for lighting. I really struggle with the lighting in my pet room, which is why I often sit on the bed instead to film videos like this, because I like filming in front of natural light in a window. So I'm hoping this is going to be really good for filming videos in the pet room and just making the videos a bit better than filming in a really dark, dingy pet room instead. So I thought I'd talk you through my plans with each animal or each species and kind of go around the room and show you where I'm thinking of putting them and any upgrades I'm thinking of doing. So starting with the rats, not too much is going to change. I'm happy with their cage, even though it's a little bit broken at the moment. I like their cage. They're going to have the same similar setup, and I think I'm going to put the rat cage on this wall where the door is, because I want them to have their own separate wall, and they might still have their cat tree or their rat tree next to this, kind of on that weird alcove bit next to the window. I'm thinking of putting them on that wall by themselves with nothing else really around them to jump on. Obviously they can jump onto other enclosures, which is not ideal, so I'd like them to be on their own separate wall, and I'm thinking probably of putting them on that one. So I'm thinking of either using a different type of paint on this wall, like a washable, wipeable paint. Let me know if you have this kind of paint with your rats, because I had this kind of paint at uni and it was really good for wiping off porphyrin, or God forbid if they poop and it somehow hits the wall. That happens sometimes, so I like some sort of either wipeable, washable paint, or maybe like a big sheet of Perspex behind the rat cage to catch all of that and just make my life easier and save me from having to drag everyone out a couple of years down the line to repaint. I'd like to have something in there to stop that from happening that I can easily wipe and clean, because this house has pretty crappy paint and it does make getting things like that off the wall pretty difficult. So I'd like to try and prevent that in the future on that wall somehow. I've not kind of decided what I'm going to do yet, but I would like them to have their own separate wall for that reason. Speaking of the rats, I'd love to have all of the artwork they've done for me on their little canvases all displayed on a nice big shelf in like a line. I think that would look really cool either above the rat cage or next to the rat cage somewhere if I can squeeze it in, or I could also put them on the windowsill all lined up, but I'd really like to display all of the artwork somewhere and have that kind of near the rat cage because that would make sense. So moving around to the window, obviously I can't do much with the window space, but the problem I have with this pet room is, although it is technically bigger than my new pet room, it's a really weird shape, and one of the biggest walls, in fact the biggest wall in that pet room, is just mostly purely windows, and obviously you can't put any cages or anything up against them, so that whole wall is pretty much lost to windows and there's not as much space to put cages and stuff. So I'm thinking, even though this pet room is going to be a bit smaller in terms of floor space, it's got a more logical setup, if that makes sense. It also doesn't have a wardrobe, which my one currently has, filled with rat bedding, rat cages, all of the stuff that I'm hoarding that I probably don't need to have in the pet room. I only use it maybe once a month if I need something, so all of that can go down into the garage or up into the loft. Things that we don't have in this house that cause me to cram all of that into a wardrobe, and of course that wardrobe also takes up pretty much the same size as rat cage space, so technically I'm going to have a bit more space in this pet room, even though it's smaller, which doesn't seem to make sense, but in my head it does, so hopefully that makes sense to you as well. So I was thinking with the mice, I'd like them to be directly opposite this window on the wall that's kind of opposite that. If we turn this around, I'd like them to be on this wall where the desk is, because recently I've been filming videos with them in the background and you guys have been loving watching them run around whilst I talk and do stuff, so I'd really like to keep them as my main filming background and just sit in front of their cage and talk and film videos. I really like having that as a background, so the best lighting is probably going to be directly opposite the window, and that works pretty well because I think their cage will fit in that gap, and I'm not planning on changing their cage. I really like the enclosure they've got, and that was going to be an upgrade I was going to do once we moved, but I just couldn't wait. I was too excited and I really like their enclosure, so I think that's going to go right in this space where that desk is. I think it would also be really nice to have a few shelves staggered above the mouse cage to display their food, or just all of the mouse and rat things I've collected over the years on a few shelves in the pet room. I think that would also look really nice as a filming background. Let me know if you have any more ideas of what things I could put in the background of my videos above the mouse cage that would look nice when I'm filming stuff. If you have any ideas, let me know. Then that brings us to the last wall, which is the first one you see as soon as you walk into the pet room. I kind of want this to be the feature wall, which I'm considering either getting a really fancy jungle plant themed wallpaper or just painting this maybe like an emerald green colour as a feature wall. I don't know if that would make the room look smaller because it would make it darker. I'm not sure if I just want to leave it white, but that's where I plan on putting Orbit, my inverts, any tanks and stuff that all go on a rack. I don't have too much space to work with, but I would like that to be kind of a jungly feature wall with all of my reptiles, inverts and stuff all on that wall together. So speaking of Orbit, my leopard gecko, she's the one I want to give the main upgrade to. She's currently in a medium low Exoterra, and I really want her into a large low Exoterra. I feel like with her personality she'd do perfectly fine in a larger enclosure, and I just want to give her more space, more enrichment, and I'd also like to go bioactive with her if possible, so I really want to work on giving her a better enclosure, and I can't do that at the moment because the rack I bought for her is literally centimetres, even millimetres, just a bit too small for the large Exoterras. So if you have any recommendations for good racks in the UK that, one, are long enough for large Exoterras and also deep enough to hold them, because mine at the moment overhang a bit just because the rack is really narrow, so I do need to get a bigger, better rack for that before I can even think about upgrading her. So when it comes to her actual enclosure, I do want to make a couple of changes. I don't want to use the excavator clay as her background, just because it's so annoying. It always crumbles and breaks off, and I just can't be bothered to replace that or get a new one because I don't really like the way it looks anymore. I'd like her to have maybe like a custom made background, either one that I do myself or one that I buy from a company that makes nice Exoterra custom backgrounds that she can go into or climb on. I think that'd be really cool. So if you have any recommendations for companies that make that kind of thing in the UK, also let me know, because I'm going to need one in the next hopefully couple of months if I can upgrade her. I'd also really like to try going bioactive with Orbit. I feel like a lot of people are doing this with their leopard geckos at the moment. I kind of shied away from this initially because I was still learning, I was still new to having a leopard gecko, and I was trying to stick by the books and stick by what the majority of people tended to do with their leopard geckos, which is fine. She does have a tile substrate at the moment, which works. It works perfectly fine, but it's not very enriching for her, and I feel like she would really benefit from having a bit more enrichment in the enclosure. So having a new Exoterra and enclosure is a really good excuse to start afresh and possibly try going bioactive with her. So that's exciting. I'm kind of nervous about that, but I do really want to try it for her. I feel like it would really benefit her, and I'm going to try and do that obviously once we get the new rack, the new enclosure, and then try to go bioactive. So maybe I'll do a video on that once it happens. So in terms of all of my insects and invertebrates, not too much is obviously going to change with them because they all have pretty decent enclosures, but Slushy, my giant African land snail, is going to get bigger and he is going to outgrow his temporary baby enclosure. And I think once Orbit goes into her Exoterra, which is the next size up, I could possibly use the one she's in at the moment for Slushy, or I do also have a slightly taller one. Either of them would be really good for him in terms of an enclosure, so he will also be getting an upgrade when he's big enough, and big enough to have his big adult enclosure. So yeah, all of those will go onto a rack. It's probably going to look a bit silly because I'm not going to cram it full of Exoterras and enclosures straight away. There might be a few odd gaps here and there, but I would like them to be all on the same rack and make it as universal as possible, and possibly decorate it with some fake leaves and stuff. But I want that main back wall to be a feature wall with all of my tanks. So in terms of Hubble, my cat, I feel like having a much bigger house is just going to be better for him to get his energy out and run around. He does try to do zoomies in this house, which of course is quite limited, so I feel like having a bigger house is going to be overall just really good for him. But I do also want to make him a cat wall, which I've been looking at on Pinterest, and I've got so many ideas for things I want to do. Obviously I'm still a bit limited with space, but I was thinking of either putting this in the third bedroom, which is going to be the little guest bedroom if people want to come and stay, or maybe possibly doing that downstairs on a wall downstairs. I'm not sure, but I do really want him to have a cat wall, and this is kind of my inspo of what I'm thinking to do in a smaller space. So there's not too much space to work with, but I feel like this wall would be otherwise unused. It's not going to have really anything on it, so I think a cat wall would look really cool above the spare bed, which is opposite the window. If you come and stay, you're going to have Hubble playing above your head whilst you try and sleep, which is going to be terrifying. But my main inspiration for this is a brand called Maizu. They do really cool cat shelves and pods, and they do one that's kind of shaped like a moon, I think, and this will go really nicely with his space themed name being Hubble. I feel like he would just look really cute on this, so that is my main inspiration, either to make it myself or possibly buy it from that brand. So if we go downstairs in the house, the layout of the house is all open plan downstairs, which some people don't like this. I think it's really nice and different, but we do have two back doors, which I'm not going to put a catio on each individual door. I don't really like the way that catios look. I feel like they make me feel a bit claustrophobic, so I would like to cat proof the whole garden, which I'm not sure if it would be possible with a brick wall or a garage. I'll have to look into it, but I would really like to cat proof the garden and get the barriers you put on the fence to stop them from escaping, just to give him access to the outdoors where he can't escape, get injured. You know the drill, you know how I feel about indoor and outdoor cats, but I don't think I want to have any sort of catio. I just want to cat proof the garden and make it a safe space for him. So that's also going to be something down the line that we might do in the future. Not straight away, because we do have other things that we need to do before that, but that's definitely on the cards for Hubble. So I feel like one of the main questions that everyone is going to be dying to know when it comes to moving into a new house is, do we have any plans to add any new pets? that I don't already obviously have. So I'm not going to be talking about obviously getting new rats, new mice. That obviously comes with having a social animal, but am I going to get any new pets in terms of a new species that I don't currently have? Now the answer to this is going to be pretty disappointing. The answer is probably not, at least not straight away, and obviously we've got so many other expenses to cover that comes with buying a first time house and buying a house in general, but I'm also quite limited on the space. It is going to be a smaller pet room and smaller compared to what maybe some of you are used to, and I just probably don't have the space to have another cage like a rat cage or another cage the size of the mouse cage. There's definitely not enough space for things like that, so that is pretty much off the cards. I'm not going to get a hamster or anything like that straight away, at least. That's not on the cards or in the plans for me at the moment, so probably not going to get any new pets to start with, mostly due to space, but also due to the fact that I do now have chronic illnesses, which I've not really talked about too much on my channel, but in a dream world when I was 18, if you'd asked me, when you buy a house, do you have any more plans to get any more pets? I could have given you the biggest list of pets that I would have loved to have owned in a new space, but I have to be realistic about what I can personally manage, and at the moment, that is not a lot. I do feel a bit sad for little 18-year-old me that would have been so excited to finally have her own space that she could do whatever she wanted with and get whatever she wanted in terms of pets. I feel like I would have been so excited to finally get some of the dream pets on my list, but I have to be realistic about right now and also the future. Living with chronic illnesses, I don't know if it's going to get worse. I don't know if it's going to be something I have to struggle with for my whole entire life, and if it is going to be something that progressively gets worse, I don't want to suddenly end up in a situation where I've got too many pets for my condition to personally handle. So I need to be realistic and not get too many pets. As much as I would love to, as much as I would love so many of the pets that are on my dream list, my Word document ever since I was 16, 17, 18, I have to be realistic about that and not push myself too much. Obviously I might get the odd new pet here and there, things like invertebrates. Those are pretty simple to care for. They don't require a large amount of social energy on a daily basis. But things like rodents and mammals, I don't see myself, at least not at the moment, getting any more new rodents, because not like rats and mice as in new species like guinea pigs, hamsters. I just don't see that in my future at the moment because I'm still fighting for a diagnosis, for treatment. I just don't have the energy to do really much more than I'm doing at the moment. So maybe if I get better in the future, I might get a few new pets. If I do get anything new, drastic like a mammal, then I'm probably feeling a bit better, but at the moment I just need to take things pretty slowly and not take on more than I can handle. One thing I would really like is to get a dog in the future, probably not this year, maybe next year, maybe the year after that, but that would be a joint pet between me and my boyfriend that would also take on some of the dog's care. So it's not going to be primarily on me to care for them, and not like a rodent like a rat or a mouse that is mostly on me solely caring for them. So I would really like to get a dog in the future, but in terms of that, I don't have any immediate plans for any new pets, and of course if I do have any plans then I will let you know. So when it comes to my small animal business, which is Boggle Buddy Store, where I sell supplies for rats, mice, other small pets, and also things for us that love them, I really want to work on expanding my store this year and next year. I would love to have a garden office where I do most of my work. I can also edit my YouTube videos there. I really want a nice independent space away from the pet room, because right now if I'm packing orders, I have to pack away all the boxes, the packaging, the products, make sure they're not anywhere near the rats, and then let the rats out for free roam, or vice versa. If the rats have just been out for free roam, I have to tidy up, clean up after them, and then I can start packing orders and working in there. So I'd really like 2 separate spaces to do that, have a workspace and also pet room where things are not coming into contact, and just having a bit more space. So I think building a garden office in a little shed, or what are they called, like a granny annex? No, that's not the word. There's a word for it. I'll put it on screen if I can think of it, but I'd really like to have a nice garden office in the garden to have directly for my store. So obviously this is pretty much bottom of our list in terms of the big list we have to do when we first move into our house, but it might take a couple of months or half the year to get around to doing that. But I would really like to do this as soon as possible, just to have a separate workspace and work on expanding the store, having more products. That will definitely help in terms of that, because although I can't keep all of the products in my little office, I will still have to have my external storage unit that I hired to have all of my products. I'll probably need to get a bigger one of them because I am really outgrowing the one I have at the moment, but I would probably keep a few products in my home office because little products like treats and things I go through pretty quickly, so I'd like to have some really nice display racks with all of the products next to me whilst I pack your orders. So yeah, these are some pictures of garden offices that I'm thinking of converting into Boggle Buddies HQ. I'm thinking of either having one of those desks that raises up so you can use it as a standing desk, so I can either sit down and pack orders if I'm not feeling good, or I can also stand up and pack them at kind of waist height. Right now I sit on the floor hunched over packing your orders, which is not great, so I definitely need to work out a system for better packing orders and stuff. I want to grade everything, I want to get a label printer. All of this stuff is probably not very interesting to you, but all of it really excites me. I love stationery and stuff, so I really want to have these racks from IKEA that have a pull-out desk section. I could also pack orders on that and stuff, so really exciting. I have a lot of hopes and dreams to build that. Hopefully some months after we move in. I'm not too sure how long it will take to be able to afford that. They are quite expensive, but that is my plans for the store, which hopefully I can bring you guys along and show you in a vlog or something. But also, if you have any ideas for things I can do in terms of the home office and Boggle Buddies, any new products you want me to bring to the store, let me know in the comments and I'll try and do that for you. So yeah, that is pretty much my plans when it comes to the new house in terms of the pets, the pet room, and also with my online store. Do let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts or any ideas of where to put things in the pet room or things I could do in the pet room. One thing I think I forgot to mention is I think it'd be really cool, as well as having a cat wall for Hubble, also making like a rat wall for the rats that they can kind of use like an agility course where they can use the shelves on the wall to go around the room. I think that'd be really cool if I can work out how to do that somehow. But let me know if you have any other cool ideas I can do in limited space, because I think it's going to be a bit like a game of Tetris, trying to fit everything in a way that makes sense. But if you do have any thoughts, please let me know in the comments. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and you're excited to see the new pet room in the future. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!